I've had a few requests on how to label players in online poker, and so I'm just going to demonstrate what I do. And please note that you can do obviously whatever you want. This is just a guide and an information, but I've just picked this random table where I didn't have anyone. And so here you can see we have 8 custom labels. This is on PokerStars. And so you can tag up to 8 different types of players. And here is how I do it. And as I said, you can choose whichever colors you like. This doesn't matter at all. But what I do is I start off with a blue label, which for me is just a solid, good tag, like a reg at these stakes. Not necessarily a crusher, not necessarily someone who has big leaks, just someone who is kind of a normal reg for these stakes. And then I have the darker blue, which is almost a little bit purplish. And this is for me a reg who is on the weaker side. So doesn't necessarily mean that he's too passive, but oftentimes it means that, or just in any way he is just not as good as the ones that are the lighter blue. And then we have the other direction. We have this pale blue, greenish color, and these are really good aggressive players. So these would be better regs than the blue ones that I have here. And then following from this, I use the green tag as someone who is he's a really aggressive player. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that he's a great player. It just alerts me that he is someone who is capable of 3 and 4 betting very light. And that's very important, especially in a game like in Zoom. If I'm on the button or cutoff and I have a cuspy hand, if I see that I have a green tag, so it was like a very aggressive player, or this light blue one that's an aggressive good player, if I have one of these two in the blind or behind me to act, then I will probably ditch cuspy hands. And if I don't have any one of those, then I might open those hands that are a bit cuspy. Then we have the red and the purple tag, and these for me are both recreational players. So what that means is one, the purple one is a really bad recreational player, and the red one is someone who has done something that's a bit fishy, but not necessarily like super fishy. So, for example, that would be if someone opens in the low jack and a player cold calls in the cutoff. Now, there is nothing inherently wrong with doing that, but I know that most regs at pretty much any stakes don't cold call in the cutoff to if there is a raise before them. So I will just tag them with a red label, which, as I said, doesn't mean that they're like necessarily fish, but they have done something that makes me think that they're not that great. And another example would be an even bigger one if I raise someone 3 bets and then a player cold calls the 3 bet in the small blind or big blind or button or whatever. So that's again something that regs don't do at all usually. However, there might be some weaker regs, someone who's just starting out, a beginner reg, who might do that. So that's why I don't want to give them the purple tag straight away. Whereas purple tag, what I do there is if I see someone either open limping or calling a 3 bet out of position with, say, Jack 8 offsuit or so. That person gets the purple tag straight away, and then I know this is like a proper fish or non-crusher, as I call them on this channel. And then we have the orange tag, And that one for me, like I don't necessarily think you need to use it like I do, but I just had this one as an open one. And so I just highlight players that I know from somewhere. So these might be players that I know from real life, or I know that they're streamers. And so it just alerts me that I'm playing against someone who I might know a bit better. And for example, if it's a streamer, then I might just go and watch their stream for a bit or so on the side. And if it's someone I know from real life, well, depending who it is, I might say hello or something like that. And then we have the yellow label, and I think that one I really like to use, and I think it's very important for you to just save one of these, whichever color you prefer, to use for a certain thing, and that is the do not bluff category. So that can be a fish, it can be a reg, it can be born out of dynamics or whatever, but this is someone I really don't want to bluff because, for example, I have seen them call down super light several times, and I just don't think I can get away with bluffing. Or the other thing is, I have done something where they saw that, so usually against them, where I may have triple barreled with nothing and they called me down, and so they know that I am someone who can bluff, and therefore I really want to alert myself to not bluff them. So this is kind of how it goes. These are the 8 labels I have. As I said, you don't need to use all of them, but I think they're pretty useful, except for the orange one. You can do something else with it if you want. You can say someone's passive or aggressive or something by using this one. So it depends what you want to do. And now just to say a bit about taking notes, because that's kind of related to it. So I realize that if you multi-table, and especially if you multi-table in a Zoom or fast forward game, you will not have a lot of opportunity to go for notes. But if you can, so these are the sort of things that I try to write down. Basically, I will say things like whenever I see someone does something that's unexpected. So, for example, I would write opened ace 5 offsuit in the low jack. That would be something that I would write here. Or called a 3-bet out of position with ace jack offsuit. That's again something that I normally wouldn't expect a reg to do or something like that. And then, for example, in this hand that I played, so this guy opened to 3.5x. So I would go and say raised button to 3.5 big blind with ace queen suited. So that's it. And then I could also write, because it went check check on the flop, check check on the turn, and on the river I bet third pot. So I could write called 1/3 on river with ace high after check through before. Now, this is not a super useful note to take, but this is just something I would take in from this hand. And you see, the PokerStars has automatically given me the tag of, or him the tag, the yellow one, as the do not bluff one. So make sure you do change that. And now we have to decide what do we do. So this is the first hand I've played against this guy. I know nothing about him except that he raised to 3.5x pre-flop on the button, which makes me think that he's probably not a crusher. And then he played it super passively, and in the end he called there. So I think this is most likely not a reg, and it doesn't mean that he's a really bad player, although he could be. So for now, I would just give him the red label of being someone who has done something that's not exactly reg-like, but I'm not sure yet, so I will just go for the red tag. So I hope this has been useful, and join me next time for one of my streams. Thank you. Bye.